Chief Emeka Akoli was one of the wealthiest men in Lagos. His empire spanned oil, real estate, and shipping, earning him the nickname the Golden Touch because everything he invested in turned to success. Yet behind the high walls of his Banana Island mansion, his greatest struggle was not business. It was the silence of a daughter whose laughter he longed to hear again. His only daughter, Chidinma, once a bright, lively 8-year-old, had been left paralyzed after the tragic car accident that also claimed the life of his beloved wife, Adiz. Once her laughter rang through the house like music. Once she ran to the gardens, chasing butterflies and picking hibiscus flowers. But now she sat quietly in her wheelchair, staring out the window, her spirit dimmed. At first, Chief Akoli tried to fight it with his wealth. He flew her to India for surgery, to Germany for therapy, to the United States for advanced treatment. Every attempt ended in the same crushing disappointment. Chidinma's smile faded. Her laughter disappeared. She rarely left her room, except when her nanny rolled her into the garden. Chief Akoli, though proud and commanding before the world, felt his heart breaking each day. He saw her staring blankly into the distance, lost in a world of sadness he couldn't penetrate with all his money and power. But one hot afternoon in Lagos, something unexpected happened. Chidinma sat quietly in the garden, her eyes fixed on the gate beyond, lost in thought. She noticed movement in the corner of her eye. A boy, barefoot and ragged, slipped quietly through a small space by the hedge. His shirt was torn, his shorts too big for his thin frame. His hair was messy, his knees bruised from life on the streets. But when he looked at Chidinma, his eyes sparkled with mischief. Then, without a word, he began to dance. Not a professional dance, not the kind you saw in videos or on TV. His steps were exaggerated and funny. His arms swung like a clown's, his body twisting and spinning in ways that made him look ridiculous. At first, Chidinma just blinked. Then a small giggle escaped her lips. The boy made his eyes wide and pretended to slip. Catching himself dramatically, Chidinma clapped her hands. And then, like a miracle, she laughed. It wasn't a polite laugh or a forced giggle. It was pure, unrestrained laughter that echoed across the compound. The boy grinned and danced harder, spinning, hopping, rolling on the grass like a performer on stage. Chidinma's laughter grew louder, filling the air with a sound Chief Akoli thought he'd never hear again. His name was Chidi. At least that's the name he gave when people asked. Nobody knew his full story because he rarely spoke about it. What people in the Ajin neighborhood didn't know was that Chidi had no home. Some nights he slept under the bridge near the bus park. Other nights he found corners of unfinished buildings where he could hide. He had no parents anyone had seen, no siblings, and no bed except the hard concrete floor. Chidi had one thing that kept him alive, his joy. When hunger was strong and sleep would not come, he danced. When bus drivers shouted at him for begging at the traffic lights, he danced. He danced for strangers on the street, and sometimes they gave him a few coins. Dancing made him feel alive. It gave him joy even in his suffering. His movements were his voice, his shield, his way of escaping the pain of being unwanted. That afternoon, Chidi was wandering past the billionaire's mansion in Banana Island. He peered through a small hole in the gate and saw Chidinma sitting quietly nearby. Her small face rested on the arm of her wheelchair, her eyes fixed sadly on the ground. Something moved inside Chidi. He thought, I know what sadness feels like, but if I dance for her, maybe I can make her smile. Maybe, just maybe, I can chase her sadness away. So Chidi slipped quietly through the hedge and stepped into the garden. He began to dance, pulling silly faces and twisting his body in ridiculous exaggerated moves. When Chidinma laughed, it felt to him like a victory greater than finding food after a long day of hunger. Her laughter made his heart race. He danced harder, wilder. Each clap and giggle from her giving him new energy. In those precious minutes, Chidi forgot that he was barefoot, hungry, and without a home. He wasn't a beggar or a boy from the street. He was simply a child bringing joy to another child. What Chidi did not realize was that he wasn't only making Chidinma laugh. He was changing her life and his own forever. Inside the mansion, Chief Akoli heard it. He froze. He hadn't heard that sound in 8 months. He rushed to the balcony, expecting to see a miracle, and in a way, he did. His daughter was laughing, clapping, her eyes alive again, and the source of her joy was not medicine, not therapy, not money. It was a homeless boy dancing barefoot in his compound. From the balcony, Chief Akoli's first reaction was anger. How had this ragged street boy entered his compound? Where were the security guards? What if he was dangerous? Chief Akoli's fist clenched. He almost called out, ready to send the boy away immediately. But then he saw Chidinma. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement. Her arms were moving, clapping with strength he hadn't seen in months. Her back, usually slouched, was upright, and her laughter, loud, uncontrolled, full of life, filled the air. Chief Akoli froze in his tracks. For 8 months, he had spent millions chasing doctors and treatments, only to watch his daughter sink deeper into despair. Now, in less than 10 minutes, this barefoot boy had brought her back to life. Chief Akoli didn't understand it. He didn't trust it, but he couldn't deny what he was seeing. He hid behind one of the marble pillars of the mansion, watching silently. His chest tightened, not with anger this time, but with something he had almost forgotten. Hope. As the boy danced and Chidinma clapped, Chief Akoli realized something shocking. This street boy was doing for his daughter what all his wealth could not. A homeless boy brings laughter back to a billionaire's daughter. What will the father do? Drop your predictions in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for next chapter where everything changes. Turn on notifications. You won't believe what happens next. Chitty came back the next afternoon, the same way he came the first time. Quiet, quick, and hopeful. He didn't sneak because he wanted to steal. He came because he now carried a small mission in his heart. Made Chidinma laugh again. He had slept behind a kiosk in Aj the night before, stomach rumbling. But he woke up with a smile. He had found something bigger than hunger, purpose. As he slipped through the hedge, he saw her waiting by the gate, eyes bright, hands already ready to clap. "Are you ready?" he asked, lifting his arms like a circus clown. Chidinma giggled and nodded. Before he could start, Chief Akoli stepped out of the mansion. For a second, Chitty froze. He knew that look, adult anger that comes before a beating or a boot to send him on his way. He held his breath, prepared to run if he had to. "Daddy, please don't send him away. Please." Chidinma's voice broke the tension. Chief Akoli studied the boy up close for the first time. The shirt was torn at the shoulder. The shorts hung on a waist too thin. The boy was barefoot with scars on his knees that told stories no child should have to tell. But his eyes were steady. Not arrogant, not weak, just steady. "What's your name?" Chief Akoli asked. "Chitty," the boy replied. "Why did you come into my compound?" Chitty swallowed. "I saw her. She looked sad the first day. I thought maybe if I danced, she would laugh. I didn't come to take anything, sir. I only came to give something small. I can leave after." The words were simple, but they sank into Chief Akoli like rain on dry earth. "Where do you stay?" Chief Akoli asked, his voice softer now. "Anywhere," Chitty said. "Bus park in Aja. Sometimes I dance for small money. Sometimes I just dance for myself so hunger won't win." Chidinma's eyes filled with tears. "He makes me happy, Daddy." Chief Akoli glanced at his daughter. Her cheeks were glowing, her back straight. He noticed her toes shift slightly. It might have been small, but it was movement he hadn't seen in months. He took a breath. "Okay, you can stay for today, in the open where I can see you. No misbehavior. Do you understand?" Chitty nodded quickly, relief washing over his face. He turned to Chidinma with a grin. "Showtime." She clapped. And just like that, the garden became a stage again. 1 day turned into 3. 3 turned into a week. The security guards were told not to stop the boy anymore. "Let him in at 4 p.m., Chief Akoli instructed. "He leaves at 6 p.m. He eats before he goes." Chitty arrived each day with new ideas. He danced like a spinning top. He told funny stories from the bus park. He acted out quarrels between damnful bus drivers and their conductors. He made sound effects fell dramatically, stood up grandly, bowed like a king, then crossed his eyes until Chidinma's laughter shook her shoulders. But it wasn't just laughter. Something else was happening. Chidinma's hands grew stronger from clapping. She started lifting her arms to copy Chitty's moves. Her voice grew more confident. "Again!" she would shout. "No, do it like yesterday." She even tried to spin her wheelchair in small circles when he spun on the grass. And every small turn felt like victory. Chief Akoli watched all this quietly. He noticed the little things. How Chitty never asked for anything before performing. How he always checked Chidinma's face before trying a joke. How he expected nothing but claps and laughter. Yet when food was offered, he ate gently, like someone who knew what it meant to eat once a day. He never wasted a single grain of rice. He drank his water slowly, savoring it. He thanked the housemaid 3 times for every meal. In the evenings, after Chitty left, Chidinma spoke more than she had in months. "Daddy, did you see the one where he pretended to be a police siren? Daddy, today I felt something in my toes. Daddy, can you come tomorrow?" The doctor examined her during a routine hospital visit and was surprised. "Her engagement is back," he said, looking at her closely through his glasses. This kind of emotional and mental motivation can spark recovery pathways in ways we can't always explain medically. Whatever you're doing, keep it going. That night, Chief Akoli stood alone in the garden, looking at the space where Chitty danced daily. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, gratitude that didn't come from a business success or a bank transfer. He whispered into the warm Lagos air, "Thank you, boy." And though no one was there to hear it, the garden seemed to agree, the night breeze rustling through the mango trees like applause. But Chief Akoli was a practical man, and questions nagged at him. Who was this boy really? Why did he live on the streets? Where was his family? Could he be trusted? He called his head of security, Mr. Ibrahim. "I want you to find out everything about this boy called Chitty. Quietly. Don't scare him away. But I need to know his story." Mr. Ibrahim nodded and left. Chief Akoli didn't know yet that what he would discover would break his heart all over again and make his decision about the boy far more complicated than he'd imagined. Chitty is changing Chidinma's life. But what's his real story? Comment your thoughts below. Smash that like button. Subscribe for next chapter where Chief Akoli discovers a shocking truth about Chitty's past. Hit that notification bell. It happened on an ordinary afternoon, the kind of day when you don't expect miracles. The sun leaned low over Lagos, the hedge threw soft shadows on the lawn, and a radio someone was playing an old highlife tune by Oliver de Coke. Chitty was mid-performance, doing a slow-motion dance where he moved as if time had become thick and heavy, like moving through honey. Chidinma laughed so hard she forgot to hold her blanket in place. "Wait," she said, catching her breath. "Let me try something." She placed both hands on the armrests of her wheelchair. Her face tightened with effort. Chitty stopped dancing, watching with wide eyes. Chief Akoli, who had been reading documents on the veranda, looked up sharply. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Chidinma's shoulders rose. Then her chest lifted. Then slowly, painfully, her hips lifted an inch off the wheelchair seat. Then 2 inches. She held herself there, trembling, for 3 long counts. 1. Chitty whispered, eyes enormous. 2. Chief Akoli counted, stepping forward without realizing it, documents falling from his hands. 3. Chidinma breathed before sinking back into the chair, panting and smiling, eyes wet with tears of effort and triumph. Silence fell over the garden. It was not the old silence, the heavy one. It was a holy silence, the kind that comes after prayers answered in a way you did not expect. Chitty broke it with a shout. "You did it! You did it!" He spun 3 times and dropped to his knees beside her wheelchair. "Champion, you are a champion." Chief Akoli knelt on the other side, his hands shaking. He touched his daughter's forehead lightly, as if she might break. "You are so brave," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I am so proud of you." Chidinma reached for both of them, 1 small hand for her father, 1 for her friend. "I'm not scared anymore," she said. "When he dances, I feel like I can move too. They didn't tell the world. Not yet. They didn't post it on social media or call the newspapers. They simply kept going. More laughter, more practice, more tiny movements that added up to something big. That night, Chief Akoli couldn't sleep. He walked the long hallways of his mansion, his footsteps echoing against the marble floors. He thought of his daughter, her bright eyes when Chitty entered the garden, her stronger voice when she called out encouragement to him. Then he thought of his pride, his image, his name in Lego society. What would people say if he took a street boy into his home? What would his business associates think? What would his late wife's family say? It was a battle inside his chest, between pride and love, between what the world expected and what his heart was telling him. By dawn, Chief Akoli realized something profound. Reputation couldn't heal his daughter. Money hadn't saved her laughter. Status hadn't brought back her will to live. But Chitty, a boy with nothing but joy to offer, had given Chidinma hope. For the first time, the great Chief Akoli admitted to himself, maybe wealth isn't the highest power. Maybe kindness is. That morning, Mr. Ibrahim returned with his report. Chief Akoli read it in his study, his heart growing heavier with each line. Chitty's mother had died of malaria when he was 4. His father, a bus driver, had died in an accident 2 years later. Distant relatives had taken him in, but made him work like a servant, fetching water, running errands, sleeping outside. When he turned 9, they'd simply abandoned him at the motor park, telling him to go and find his own way. For 3 years, Chitty had survived on the streets. He'd been beaten by older boys for sleeping in their territory. He'd been chased by police for loitering. He'd gone days without food. Once, he'd been so sick with fever that a kind medicine seller at Odge Market had given him free malaria drugs. But through it all, Chitty had danced. Dancing kept him human. Dancing reminded him he was more than his circumstances. Dancing was his way of refusing to let the world break his spirit. Chief Akoli closed the folder, tears streaming down his face. This boy, who had every reason to be bitter and angry, chose joy instead. This boy, who owned nothing, gave freely. This boy, whom society had discarded, was saving his daughter's life. One Saturday afternoon, Chief Akoli called Chitty to sit with him in the garden. For the first time, the boy wasn't asked to dance. He was asked to talk. "Tell me about yourself," Chief Akoli said gently. Chitty hesitated. Nobody ever asked about him. People only saw his dirty clothes and waved him off. But Chief Akoli's eyes were serious, almost gentle, inviting trust. "I don't know where I was born," Chitty began softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "My mother died when I was little. My father died in a bus accident. Some relatives took me, but they didn't really want me. When I got older, they left me at the park. So I stayed with other boys under the bridge. We sleep anywhere we can find." Chief Akoli listened, his chest tightening with each word. "Why do you dance?" he asked, though he thought he already knew the answer. Chitty smiled faintly. "When you're hungry, your body feels heavy. If you just sit, the hunger wins. But if you move, if you dance, it feels lighter. People laugh. Sometimes they give me coins. Sometimes they don't. But at least I don't feel invisible." Chief Akoli nodded slowly. He had attended the best schools in Nigeria and abroad. He'd eaten the finest meals. He'd traveled the world. Yet sitting in front of him was a boy who had learned life's deepest truth without any teacher. Joy is strength. From today, Chief Akoli said firmly, "You are not invisible anymore. You are part of this house." Chitty blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. "You will live here. You will eat 3 meals a day. You will go to school. You will have a bed, clothes, and everything you need. You are part of this family now." Chitty's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, thank you, sir." Chief Akoli pulled the boy into an embrace. "No, Chitty, thank you. You gave my daughter her life back. Let me give you yours." When Chidinma wheeled herself closer and grabbed Chitty's hand, smiling wide, he realized he was no longer just a boy of the streets. He was becoming family. Chitty is getting a new life. But how will Lego society react? Type family in the comments. Like if this moved you. Subscribe for next chapter where Chief Akoli faces criticism for his decision. This story gets even more powerful. 1 year passed. The transformation in the Akoli household was nothing short of miraculous. Chidinma, now 9 years old, could walk short distances with support. Her physiotherapist called her progress remarkable and medically unexpected. But everyone in the household knew the real medicine: joy, purpose, and love. Chidi, now 13, had grown taller and healthier. Regular meals and a stable home had filled out his once thin frame. He excelled in school, particularly in mathematics and physical education. His teachers reported that he had a gift for encouraging other students, always the first to help someone struggling. But he never stopped dancing. Now he danced not from desperation, but from pure happiness. And every afternoon, without fail, he danced for Chidinma. One evening, as the sun painted the Lagos sky in gold and crimson, Chief Akoli stood in the garden watching Chidinma take careful steps with Chidi holding her hand protectively. The sound of her laughter, mixed with Chidi's playful shouts, filled the air. In that moment, Chief Akoli understood something he had never truly known before. Money was useful. Yes, business success had its place. But true wealth was not in bank accounts or real estate portfolios. True wealth was in the laughter of his daughter, in the courage of a boy who refused to be broken by the streets, in the love that bound them all together. He whispered to himself, "I thought I had everything, but I had nothing until I met this boy." The Akoli family story spread beyond Lagos gossip circles. Journalists wanted interviews. Chief Akoli agreed to one, with one condition: the focus must be on helping other street children, not on praising him. During the interview with Channels Television, he said something that would be quoted across Nigeria for months. "We build walls to protect what we have, but sometimes the greatest blessings come when we open the gates and let in what we think we don't need." Inspired by Chidi's story, Chief Akoli established the Dancing Hope Foundation, a charitable organization providing shelter, education, and skills training for homeless children across Lagos. Chidi helped design the programs, insisting that every child should learn some form of creative expression: dance, art, music, because joy is what kept me alive. The foundation's logo was simple: a child dancing inside a heart. Within the first year, they rescued 43 street children, providing them with homes, education, and hope. Many of them visited the Akoli mansion, where Chidi would teach them his dances, and Chidinma would encourage them with her own story of recovery. "If I can walk again," she would tell them, "you can overcome anything too." One Saturday, 3 years after Chidi first slipped through the hedge, the Akoli family held a special ceremony. Chief Akoli had legal adoption papers prepared. In the presence of family, friends, and some of the children from the foundation, Chief Akoli stood with Chidi before a judge. "Chidi," Chief Akoli said, his voice thick with emotion, "you came into my life as a stranger. You became my daughter's healer. Then you became part of our family. Today, I want to make it official. I want to adopt you as my son." Chidi, now 16 and much taller, couldn't speak. Tears streamed down his face. The judge smiled warmly. "Do you accept?" "Yes," Chidi whispered. Then louder, "Yes, sir. Yes, Dad." It was the first time he'd called Chief Akoli Dad. The room erupted in applause. Chidinma, now 12 and able to walk with only a cane for support, rushed forward and hugged her new brother. "Finally, it's official. You're my brother forever." Chief Akoli embraced them both, and in that moment, the family was complete. Not by blood, but by something stronger, by love chosen, by grace given, by joy shared. Later that evening, after the guests had left and the house was quiet, the three of them sat in the garden where it all began, the place where a hungry boy had once danced to make a sad girl smile. "Do you remember that first day?" Chidinma asked Chidi. "How could I forget?" Chidi grinned. "I was so scared. I thought your father was going to chase me away." "I almost did," Chief Akoli admitted with a laugh. "I'm grateful I didn't. You taught me something invaluable, son." "What's that, Dad?" "That the cure we need doesn't always come from medicine or money. Sometimes it comes from love, kindness, and unexpected friendship. You healed my daughter with joy, And in doing so, you heal me too. Chitty stood up. Want to see my latest dance? Always, Chidinma said, positioning her cane aside and clapping her hands. As Chitty began to dance in the garden, no longer the desperate dance of a homeless boy, but the joyful dance of a son who had found home, Chief Akoli watched with full heart. From that day forward, Chief Emeka Akoli became known not just as a wealthy businessman, but as a man of heart. Chitty was no longer the homeless boy. He was Chitty Akoli, beloved son and brother, whose story inspired thousands. And Chidinma's recovery became a beacon of hope for families everywhere, a reminder that sometimes miracles come not from hospitals or laboratories, but from a simple, pure gift of joy shared between two children. Years later, when asked about the secret to his happiness, Chief Akoli would always say, "I learned that true wealth isn't measured by what you have, but by what you give. And the greatest gift you can receive is often disguised as a thing you think you don't need." Chitty, who became a professional dancer and motivational speaker, would add with his signature smile, "I came to dance for a sad girl in a garden. I stayed because I found a family. And I learned that home isn't a place. It's where people love you not for what you can do for them, but for who you are." And Chidinma, who eventually became a physiotherapist helping other children with paralysis, would always end by saying, "My brother taught me that joy is the best medicine. Not the only medicine, but the one that makes all other medicine work better." Together, the Akoli family showed Lagos, and eventually all of Nigeria, that sometimes the most profound transformations happen not in boardrooms or hospitals, but in moments of simple human kindness, like a homeless boy dancing to make a paralyzed girl smile. The end. What an incredible journey from despair to hope. Did this story touch your heart? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button if you believe in the power of kindness. Subscribe to Folktales by Olivia for more emotional, dramatic, and unforgettable African stories. Share this video with someone who needs hope today. Comment "Joy Heals" if you were inspired. Where in the world are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Remember, true wealth is not in what you have, but in what you give. The greatest gifts often come in the most unexpected packages. Stay kind, stay hopeful, and keep believing in the power of love. Until next time, this is Folktales by Olivia, reminding you that miracles happen when we open our hearts to those the world has forgotten. Keep watching.